Welcome to Digging into the Future. Today we have Julia Robin joining us from Oracle to talk about where the future's going, also talk about trends that she's seeing in the whole digital infrastructure space. So as you know, Oracle sits at sort of the center of it all. Software company, now a network and data center company, and at the front end of AI. So Julia, welcome to Digging into the Future.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
It's very, very exciting to have you. So tell me, what was 2025 like? I mean, obviously, it's you've been a network executive for a long time at Zayo, and have you ever seen anything like what we all went through this past year?
No, is the short answer. I used the word remarkable earlier. I mean, it really was a remarkable year for us and the industry as a whole, right? Just like the limits and the demand that we've kind of pushed ourselves to is pretty unprecedented. So, I'd say, end of Q1 in 25 through pretty much the end of the year was pretty unprecedented overall. Yeah,
no, I think it's growth-wise, right? It's just been hard to believe that we would actually get to this place. And you've been so. Tell me about what we were just talking about it a few minutes ago off camera, but I think power has become the new sort of thing that everyone's having to learn about. We're having to all become experts in electricity, how it's delivered. How's that played out for you? Obviously, it's got to be something that's new to you, obviously, as well.
Yeah, I mean, Oracle's been in a little bit different of the stage of their life cycle than a lot of our competitors. We haven't been as forward about building our own infrastructure necessarily. We've always relied on partners since sort of OCI was created about 10 years ago. And with the demand that we've got, we've had to take a much more forward facing role, not only on the development side, but also on the power consumption side. We don't get to make decisions necessarily based on where we'd like to go, based on where eyeballs are, where network is anymore. It really is about power providers, whether that's utility or behind the meter. We've had to get really creative on both. We've been fortunate enough to have partners both on the utility side and on the on-site, generation side that are really in it with us and have really gotten creative to meet some pretty aggressive demand this past year.
Well, no, because you came from the network side. I mean, at Zayo, you were pretty much like network development and sort of that area. So this has got to be kind of a new thing for you, right? And
it is. I was saying before, it is, you think but you have no idea. And I think that was a show at some point. I forget what show that came from. But it is unbelievable the level of intricacies that exist between the federal level, the state level, the local level, between utilities, generation, transmission, the general PJM and MISO markets, and then you pull in gas generation and whatever on-site solution you're going to build, and you pull all those pieces together, you could have 7, 8+ players pulled into a single solution to be able to provide power to a data center, depending on what you're doing. And it's not only complicated, but it becomes very rooted in the community. It becomes political at times. It becomes it becomes controversial. And so it's been an incredible learning experience for me. I mean, I have a network background, so fibers on a cables, lines on telephone poles are similar. So I kind of think about things in that way. So similar right-of-way challenges that exist in the utility world, but a whole different level of ecosystem than what I was used to before.
Well, and I think fiber, to be honest, no matter what capacity you're doing, it's not disruptive to a community, right? Like you're sort of
correct.
You're digging a hole or you're running along the roads, but I mean, reality is you're digging a hole and you're not putting something over somebody's house or dealing with also pumping stuff into the atmosphere.
You're not leveraging the public utility grid.
Yeah.
And yes, much less personal for people, for sure.
And so it's interesting. So in Oracle, your job is basically to deal with how to build these new AI factories, right? Which is it's got to be kind of interesting, and because you really don't build them until you actually have a contract, right? So you're basically helping people try and think through where the next one needs to go, correct?
Yeah, we've been very public about, we we build based on our demand, and we make sure that we have very strong demand, which sometimes results in us having maybe shorter lead times than some other, other suppliers might provide. But we're going to stay very true to that. It's a really strong business model for us. It's working out well so far. But yeah, that means we have to get really creative about how we solve for it in that period of time.
Well, it must be interesting for you, sort of being the network person in the software world, right? Because these guys are all, you're kind of coming into a place that's all about software, and sort of you're the new kid on the block, right? And so you've done pretty well. It sounds like you've sort of been kind of moved up the chain a little bit in the last couple of years, but it's got to be kind of interesting just to be around, because these guys, they made their living from being software guys, right?
It is. That journey has been incredible. And very hard at certain times, right? I've been with Oracle for 4 years. Network infrastructure, physical things that you can touch.
Yep.
And the technical depth. Folks in the telecom industry are very technical, very smart, but it's, from my standpoint, light through glass, right? And yep. That was about as technical as we were getting. No offense to engineers in the telecom world. But you join OCI, and not only do you have a world of software development that Oracle's been foundational for many, many years, but the level of complexity that exists within our own network fabrics, not at the edge or in our regions, are really critical to how we manage our capacity as a whole. And so you can't just look at fiber, like it's one very small piece of the puzzle, outside plant fiber. The network fabric that goes into the buildings that actually creates the compute capacity and now AI capacity that we have has many, many layers. And so that learning curve was, thinking about it now is kind of funny to even, the new number of the new acronyms and the fabric layers that all of a sudden you wake up 4 years later and you're like, I get it. Now I understand it. But that journey took a long time. And so, I get new people on my team that come from, physical infrastructure, and you just have to remind them to, bear with it. And things that they don't know. So you bring the infrastructure piece to the table. But yeah, the software, those languages those languages are not the same.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of education on both sides for, software folks to understand the physical constraints that exist in the world. And for, physical constraint folks to maybe try and solve their problems with software.
Right.
So it's really good when you take a software person and you embed them in physical land, and vice versa. Usually good things happen.
And now you have those big fat chips coming up between you guys, right? Which is the chips that used to do a little bit now do a lot, right? And it's so it's getting complicated, I would imagine, because you're sort of in the middle of it all, which is
we really are, and Oracle specifically is very much in the middle of it all, right? I mean, we have a whole very robust database business that has really just been such a great launch pad for us to be a major infrastructure player and have a really robust solution for our customers. But that means you kind of have to know about the entire portfolio and package of what it is that we do.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's amazing. You have the enterprise suite. I mean, every one of the Fortune 500 is your customer, right?
Yeah.
It's a nice place to start.
It's a good place to start.
Right. You think
we
about
call ourselves a startup, but
you think about when you go back to your Zayo days, right? You'd fight tooth and nail to get one of those customers that they get they show up, right? I mean,
the magnitude is certainly quite different than what I was used to before. That took some getting used to, for sure, in terms of just the sheer volume and scale of power and network capacity and capital required to go deploy this infrastructure. So that also just took some adjustment, for sure. But it's not a bad place to be at all.
Well, you and I spent some time just today with some government folks, and I think one of the things that we all talked about was sort of the impediments to tomorrow. What do we need in the world to make this thing work better in 2026? I mean, what was your thought? I mean, you had some good insights, but maybe just what are your thoughts in terms of how we can make at least America better, if not the countries offshore? I mean, what are you seeing as a way to sort of make your job easier if we were to kind of put that out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know power is the major constraint in
Yeah.
the U.S., and we're really behind in terms of grid infrastructure overall. There's certain pockets where we have, stranded capacity and excess capacity, and you kind of have all the same folks competing for the same power that's available on the grid. You've got a lot of new players entering into, the on-site generation market. Each of those types of solutions come with their own challenges. It becomes a very, very local and state level problem. And I shouldn't even say problem, it's just nuanced in every facet of the word. And when there's not, and we talked about this today, when there's not a rule set for people to operate within, and you have 50 states that operate a little bit differently, it makes it very hard as a single company to have a rinse and repeat type model that we know works for everyone, because it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And so we can overcome supply chain challenges. We can overcome speed to market challenges. We can overcome software challenges and even building out power challenges, but you can't necessarily solve people challenges, whether that's resources that exist in trades, right? Like the constraint on resources for, electricians and major contractors is, my folks, my delivery counterparts work with our GCs a ton, and, we're going back to trades being a very sexy place to be right now.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a huge transition from, coders being very sexy 10 years ago. And now we're back to we need folks that can work with their hands and get stuff done quickly and be available. And so I think we see a resurgence of different types of labor as a result of this, which has been a really interesting, but right now it's a constraint. And then, community support, right? We have a responsibility to do right by our communities, not just because we have to get stuff done, but because our employees live and work there as well, and we all raise our families there as well, and we want, the point is for this to all make it a better place to live, right? So the general, and it's disheartening when you hear misinformation and general negative sentiment towards data centers that a lot of times just isn't accurate. And so that's a real battle that can't just be solved with a project plan, right? It's a very personal and local issue, and as an industry, we have to do a little bit better about how we I don't even want to say educate, because that's implying that people are not educated about it, but more about how we do right and make sure that it's known and understood.
Well, and also I think it's an industry that is helping humans over time, and it's and for the most part it's green too. I mean, some cases it's not, but in many cases it's green energy. Even if you look at, depending on how you look at natural gas and some of these other things, but reality is it's actually helping society. But you're right, it does get a bit of a bad name, unfortunately, at times. We know what we're doing is the right thing for this country and for the goals that we have here. We've stood by all of our sustainability goals and our commitments in general, and I think we have a little bit more work to do on the messaging side. Yeah, no, I think we're getting there, and I think we're learning, and I think we're learning essentially as an industry that we need to do things a little bit differently. We need to talk about it. We need to make people aware of it. So let's flash back to Julia and tell us about. Now I know about your Zayo stuff, but maybe take me back to. Are you from Colorado? Where did you start your journey?
My life.
Yes.
I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes. So I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. I went to public high school in Memphis, Tennessee. My whole family's from there or there. Both my parents grew up there their entire lives. I'm like a third. I'm not a CPA, but I'm like three or four generations of CPAs in my family. So super boring Thanksgiving discussions.
Well, you talk about taxes, right?
We can talk about taxes. Who wants to talk about taxes? We vanilla, upbringing, and then moved to South Carolina. I went to college at Charleston.
Oh, really?
In Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And then, spent some time there. I worked in nonprofits for a little while in Charleston, and then put all my stuff in a U-Haul and drove to Colorado with no plan and no job and no money. And I heard it was cool there. And I had been wanting to go for a long time, and I skied a couple times, and at the time wasn't great, and but really enjoyed it, and so moved to Colorado and got my MBA at DU. I worked in hospitality for a little bit. I was with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory for a little bit, so a little bit of energy.
So you actually
exposure there.
This is kind of like, so this is all, it's all coming back now.
It came full circle. And then, as you're aware, there's, a huge telecom presence in the Denver area, and then landed at Zayo just by chance. I didn't know what fiber was at all. It turns out super simple compared to the things that we do now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it kind of went gangbusters from there, right? I had the pleasure of working, within, Dan Caruso and his sort of era at Zayo, and, Chris Morley and Matt Erickson and Glenn Russo and all these guys that have just, sort of built the internet infrastructure in the US and then in Europe, and had some really great career opportunities to lead businesses that I probably had no business leading at the time, but got amazing experience in the infrastructure space, and then ended up moving to Oracle about 4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's a great journey, and
Yeah.
I didn't realize. So South Carolina, Tennessee, your Southern Belle moves to
I'm very Southern.
out to West Coast, and that's very cool.
Yeah, my husband's from Chicago, so my accent is completely gone, except for when I go home.
Yeah, I'm sure it kind of comes back.
It comes back in force. So yeah.
So let's talk about the future. What do you think as you sort of look at 2026 and 2027? What do you see happening in the tech industry? You think it's going to be crazy like last year, or do you think it starts to get a little bit more organized and structured, and AI starts to gravitate to certain locations? I mean, what's your thoughts on how the infrastructure is going to play out next year?
I mean, I think things have to settle a little.
Yeah.
The demand is not slowing down.
Yep.
But I do think things have to settle a little bit for us to all get organized to go execute, right? And if we're constantly trying to chase new things, you have to focus on execution as well. So, I don't know what it holds, but I do know, I think we'll all kind of settle into what it means to actually leverage AI outside of, just using ChatGPT to find restaurants or whatever. Plan vacations is very helpful.
Yeah, very good. That's
very, very helpful with that. Redesign my bathroom, things like that. But I think we sort of start to figure out how we use it more, just not even on a day-to-day basis, but in a more transformative way. And we settle into what this new normal may look like. I think things like a gigawatt start sounding a little bit more normal. People don't, have a violent reaction when you say it, and you give them aggressive timelines, and they don't necessarily fall out of their chair, right? I think we'll settle into that over the next couple of years, and then Oracle's going to execute on, the commitments that we've put in the market, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah. No, it sounds like it's going to be a fun journey for a year or two coming up.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Again, last year was just, I say bananas, I say remarkable, like all of the words you can come up with. I'm really, really excited for us next year.
Well, it's great to have you on Digging into the Future, and it was fantastic to spend just a few minutes with you. So thanks, Julia.
Thanks, Bill. It's great to be here.